I just believe responsibility and ownership is one of the things that a quarterback must do. But why do you care? You're not trying to develop him. He leaves, you release him, he goes somewhere else. They put the time in, they develop him, they give him an opportunity. Why do you care?
Yeah, and listen, don't let him go to a situation that's perfect for him. That has
Yes.
the situation in Tampa is perfect for Baker.
Look, we need to talk about what's happening in Cleveland right now, because this situation with Shedeur Sanders is absolutely wild. And before anyone tries to tell me this is just another backup quarterback story, let me stop you right there. This is so much deeper than that. This is about a franchise that's stuck in its own head, reliving nightmares from the past, and potentially making the exact same mistake all over again. Shedeur Sanders just got named the #2 quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in their game against Pittsburgh. Now, on the surface, that sounds like good news for him, right? Moving up the depth chart, getting closer to playing time. But here's where it gets interesting. Jason Lloyd from The Athletic is reporting something that should make every Browns fan's stomach turn. The organization might be hesitant to release Shedeur, not because they believe in him, not because he's part of their future plans, but because they're terrified of what happened with Baker Mayfield happening all over again. Think about that for a second. They're holding on to a player they don't even fully believe in because they're scared he might go somewhere else and succeed. That's not a football decision. That's a fear decision, and fear has never built a championship team. When this story broke, the guys had the perfect reaction. One of them straight up asked the question everyone should be asking. If you can't develop him, why do you care? That's it. That's the whole thing right there. Cleveland is sitting here acting like they're protecting some valuable asset, but the reality is they don't have a real plan for Shedeur. They're not investing in his development. They're not building around him. They're just keeping him on the roster like an insurance policy against embarrassment. And let's be brutally honest about what this really is. This is the Browns still dealing with Baker Mayfield trauma. They ran that man out of town, said he wasn't mature enough, said they needed a grown-up at quarterback. Remember all that talk? They wanted someone different, someone who fit their vision of what a Browns quarterback should be. So they moved on, got Deshaun Watson, and what happened? Baker went to Tampa Bay and showed the entire league what he could do when given a real chance in the right system. Now Cleveland looks at Shedeur Sanders and sees the same pattern forming. Young quarterback with talent and confidence, doesn't quite fit their traditional mold, might be a little too flashy, a little too much personality, and instead of embracing what makes him special, they're trying to control it, contain it, maybe even hoping it goes away quietly without them having to make another decision they'll regret. But here's what kills me about this whole situation. The Browns act like they're the victims in the Baker Mayfield story, like somehow Baker wronged them by going somewhere else and succeeding. Are you kidding me? You didn't want him. You traded him away. You said he wasn't good enough. And when he proved you wrong, instead of saying maybe we messed up, maybe we didn't put him in the best position, Cleveland got bitter. They got defensive, and now that same energy is affecting how they're handling Shedeur. One of the guys made this incredible point during the conversation. He compared it to a relationship. If you couldn't give someone what they needed and you let them go, how can you be mad when they find happiness somewhere else? That's exactly what's happening here. Cleveland couldn't develop Baker into what they wanted, so he left and became himself somewhere else. That's not Baker's fault. That's not even really about Baker anymore. That's about a franchise that doesn't know how to nurture quarterback talent. And look at the track record. I'm not just making this up. Go back through Browns history and tell me where the successful quarterback development is. Brady Quinn? Bust. Brandon Weeden? Disaster. Johnny Manziel? We all know how that ended. Colt McCoy never got a fair shot. Baker Mayfield ran out of town. The pattern is crystal clear. Cleveland falls in love with the idea of the next great quarterback, brings them in with big expectations, and then when things don't go perfectly, they panic. The pressure in that city is insane. I get it. The fans are desperate for a winner. They haven't had sustained success in forever, but that desperation creates this environment where young quarterbacks can't breathe. They can't make mistakes. They can't grow. They have to be perfect immediately or the whole city turns on them. That's not how you build a quarterback. That's how you break one. So now we've got Shedeur sitting there as the #2, and everyone's pretending this is a normal backup situation, but it's not. Reports are already coming out that ownership wasn't even a big believer in Shedeur from the beginning. Think about what that means. The people at the very top, the ones making the ultimate decisions, they're already skeptical. When belief doesn't start at the top, it never filters down. The coaches might try to develop him, but if ownership is already half out, what's the point? point. This is where the conversation got really real. They pointed out that if Cleveland truly can't develop Shedeur, if they truly don't believe in him, then why keep him? Why not let him go to a situation where he can thrive? Why not trade him to a team that actually wants to invest in his future? The answer is pride. The answer is ego. The answer is Cleveland cannot handle being embarrassed by another young quarterback leaving and succeeding. But holding on to him out of fear isn't fair to anyone. It's not fair to Shedeur, who deserves a real opportunity. It's not fair to the Browns roster, who can feel the tension and doubt. It's not fair to the fans, who keep watching the same movie over and over with different actors. At some point, somebody in that organization has to have the courage to break the cycle. And here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders. This kid is different. He's not some project quarterback who needs years of development. He's been playing at the highest level of college football, dealing with massive pressure, handling media scrutiny, and he's done it all with confidence. Some people mistake that confidence for arrogance, but there's a big difference. Confidence is knowing what you can do and being ready to prove it. Arrogance is thinking you're already there without putting in the work. Shedeur has put in the work. He's not asking for anything he hasn't earned. He's not demanding to start. He's just waiting for his opportunity, and when it comes, he's going to be ready. The question is whether Cleveland will give him that opportunity or whether they'll keep him buried on the depth chart because they're too scared of what might happen if they believe in him and it doesn't work out. But let's flip that around. What if it does work out? What if Shedeur becomes exactly what Cleveland has been searching for? What if he's the guy who finally breaks the curse? You can't find out if you never give him a real chance. You can't discover what you have if you're too busy protecting yourself from what might go wrong. The guys also brought up something crucial. They talked about how the situation a quarterback lands in matters just as much as the talent. Baker Mayfield is the perfect example. He went to Tampa Bay, and that system was perfect for him. He had weapons, he had a coach who believed in him, he had an organization that wasn't trying to change who he was. They let him be Baker, and guess what? Baker thrived. That's what Shedeur needs. He needs a situation that enhances his strengths instead of trying to remake him into something he's not. Cleveland has this obsession with what they think a quarterback should be. They want someone who fits a specific mold, someone who acts a certain way, someone who sounds a certain way in press conferences. But football isn't played in press conferences. It's played on the field, and on the field, Shedeur Sanders has shown he can play. Now, I'm not saying Shedeur is guaranteed to be a superstar. Nobody knows for sure how any young quarterback will develop in the NFL. But what I am saying is he deserves a fair shot. He deserves to be in an environment where people believe in him from the top down. He deserves coaches who want to build around his strengths. And if Cleveland can't provide that, if they're too damaged from past failures, if they're too scared of repeating history, then they need to let him go to a place that can. Because here's what's going to happen if they don't. Shedeur is going to sit there watching Deshaun Watson struggle, watching games slip away, watching opportunities pass by, and eventually, whether it's through trade or free agency, he's going to end up somewhere else. And when he does, when he lands in the right situation with the right support, he's going to show everyone what he can do. And Cleveland is going to be sitting there once again, watching another quarterback they gave up on succeed, asking themselves how this happened again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Cleveland keeps running through the same cycle with quarterbacks and acting shocked when it doesn't work. They get excited, apply massive pressure, lose patience, give up, and then watch the players succeed elsewhere. It happened with Baker. It's happened with others. And unless something changes, it's going to happen with Shedeur. What the Browns need is someone in that building with enough courage to say, we're not doing this again. Someone who can look at the Baker situation and learn from it instead of being haunted by it. Someone who understands that development takes time and patience and belief. Someone who's willing to take the risk of believing in a young quarterback even if it might not work out, because the alternative is staying stuck in this same nightmare forever. The fans deserve better than this. Browns fans are some of the most loyal in football. They've stuck with this team through decades of disappointment. They show up, they believe, they hope, and what do they get? The same recycled mistakes with different names. At some point, the organization has to show those fans that they're actually learning, actually growing, actually trying something different. Shedeur Sanders represents a chance to do that. He's talented, he's confident, he's ready, but more than that, he represents a choice. Cleveland can choose to believe, to invest, to support, or they can choose fear, doubt, and self-protection. One of those choices might lead to failure, but at least it's trying. The other choice guarantees nothing changes. And let's talk about what this does to the locker room. When players see the organization holding on to someone they don't really believe in just because they're scared of looking bad, what message does that send? It tells everyone that decisions aren't being made based on what's best for the team. They're being made based on protecting egos and avoiding embarrassment. That creates distrust. That creates tension. Veterans start questioning the plan. Young players start wondering if they'll get fair opportunities. The whole culture starts to crack. This is why leadership matters. This is why having people in charge who can make clear, confident decisions is so important. Right now, Cleveland looks confused. They're not sure what they have in Shedeur. They're not sure what to do with him, and they're not sure how to avoid the mistakes of the past. That uncertainty spreads through the entire organization. Meanwhile, Shedeur just keeps working. He's not out there complaining, not demanding trades, not causing drama. He's doing what he's supposed to do, staying ready, studying film, supporting his teammates. That's the kind of person you want in your organization, but if you're not going to use him, if you're not going to develop him, then you're wasting everyone's time. The bottom line is this: Cleveland Browns, you have a decision to make. Either commit to Shedeur Sanders, invest in his development, give him real opportunities, and see what you have. Or admit that you're not the right place for him and let him go somewhere that is. What you can't do is keep him in limbo because you're afraid of your own shadow. That's not strategy, that's paralysis. And paralysis doesn't win championships. It doesn't build dynasties. It just keeps you stuck exactly where you are, wondering why nothing ever changes.